Hello and welcome back to another episode of Inside the Asperger Studios. My next guest started her journey as a pastry chef, crafting desserts that brought joy, and later found peace with her hands in the garden. But now she's channeling all that creativity into storytelling, and her newest creation, The Base, takes us deep into the world of science, secrets, and suspense. So sit back, relax, and grab your favorite beverage, because this conversation is going to be one you won't want to miss. See you there, everybody.
I wanna believe in the truth, but only see what I'm shown. Got the freedom to choose, but can't decide on my own. Follow what the group is thinking, bottle up my intuition till it's popping out the.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Inside the Asperger Studios. Today I'm joined with Dante Therese. Welcome to the show, Dante.
Thank you so much for having me.
So why don't we start off with the obligatory question I always ask. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay, let me see. We were talking briefly before the cameras went on and stuff about the way the world has sort of typed us and diagnosed us, etc.
Mhm.
And we were revealing all of the various letters of the alphabet that we have had bestowed upon us. And I'm not sure. I actually read, I think I may have more letters than you. But anyway, yeah, that's gonna but anyway, I'm glad that we're just living our lives and being ourselves and proud of our chunks of the alphabet.
Now, you call yourself the girl with the racing brain and too many ideas. How many tabs are open in that brain of yours right now?
Well, it's something that even when I sleep can't be cataloged because the brain is still kind of rolling and dreaming up ideas and having thoughts and stuff like that. And so, I used to have a lot of pressure when I was growing up to sort of conform to a certain ideal. But now I've decided, to just be myself. And I'm glad I did because my hundreds of thoughts, I do have lots of unfinished projects. And I joke about like, show me your alphabet. If you don't have at least three unfinished projects, you're not in our alpha part of the alphabet. But it's made me just accept myself and then do all kinds of things. And I love a good project.
Now, are you like me in many senses that you'll get your best ideas like in the most random places, or do they just come to you when you're sitting down?
They come unannounced, they come announced, they come in the shower, they come when I'm have my mouth full and my hands all greasy, so I can't text it to myself or write it without, you know, uh, scrubbing my hands first and touching a pen. They just, the mind is like popcorn. It just spits out ideas all the time.
All right. Now, if you if you could call if your life was a series, either
Yeah.
on TV or a streaming series, what would the title be?
What will she think of next?
Love it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, let's talk a little bit about your writing and your creativity. When did you first realize writing was the perfect outlet for your racing brain?
Well, to be truthful, I've had all these different places I have put my brain racing. I was a baker pastry chef. And, when you're putting like 60 eggs into a mixing bowl one at a time, you have this time for your mind to wander. I mean, and people like us, we don't need an excuse to have our mind wander. So I started getting, naturally, of course, I'm starting to get thoughts. And so, um, I'm scribbling them down with one hand as I'm watching to see if that egg is absorbed fully into the batter and stuff.
Mhm.
So I would have these, what I consider trophies. I mean, everyone has their own definition of gold. And my little trophies were these little scraps of paper. I would go home and my pockets would be bulging with these sentences and things and characters and stuff. And that's my currency, ideas.
Now, how do you keep track of them? I know I've talked with many different people, and everyone's got a different take on how they track their thoughts. I talked with one person who said she said she keeps a little notepad in her pocket, and every time she gets a thought, so she doesn't forget it, she writes it down. I talked to another person who says, I use my voice recorder on my phone. What do you do?
Okay, I am actually capable of carrying a lot of thoughts and then spitting them out. I've gotten more disciplined about that. So actually, when you asked about the book series, the first book here of the series, The
Hmm.
Base, um, I actually carried the first half of that book in my head for quite a while. And then
Wow.
when the opportunity presented itself, um, when I was going to have to get some medical attention and I knew I was going to have to actually sit down for a couple hours a day, then I used that time to spit the first half of the book out. And then I looked at it and it was a puny 70 pages. I'm like, this is not a book, this is a pamphlet. So I then I decided I couldn't leave it like half done. I had to spit out more.
Now, are you like me when it came to writing your book that when you deal, how do you deal? First off, let's go back a little bit. How do you deal with distractions when you write?
You know, I when I was growing up and everything, I was they just did not know what to do with us, and I don't think they do now either. They just are like, you're very intelligent, but you can't like, sit down, you can't focus, you can't this, it's all this, you know, this whole laundry list of insults. And um the only nice thing about it was they were sort of giving you a backhanded compliment saying that, you're a smart girl, but, you know, um, so that was a little tough, but learning to rein in the brain, like sometimes I know I can't have music around because my mind will just latch right onto that. And so I have to make like a music free zone. And I keep my surroundings. I mean, it does kind of look like a circus in here right now because I'm organizing lots of things like the film series. I have some props over there. They're really fun. And ooh, look at here. One of the props would like to say hello. Hi, everybody. But anyway, um, one of the perks of like adapting your book to a film series is getting props, you know. But I try to keep distractions as minimal as possible because of my bouncing brain. And I accept the fact that I might not be completely successful at that.
Now, you said something interesting that kind of rang a bell with me is people used to always say that you're very smart, but you can't sit still. That was my life in high school
Oh,
or
sure.
grammar school, actually, wasn't it? High school. It was in high school. My parents used to get calls all the time that said Reed can't sit still in any of his classes until one day they got a call that says, you won't believe this, but he's sitting still in the class and paying attention and learning.
Wow.
It turned out to be my general science class. So at that point, they realized there is something different about me than everyone else that one class can hold my attention that everything else can't. And it kind of goes towards what you and I have been talking about. When you have ADHD, you need something to hold our attention. It's got to be something our interest. It's got to hold our.
Yeah. I mean, like people like us, we the Kardashians can be on the front page of every newspaper and on every channel every day, and we're just going to be like, so what?
Yeah,
Because we're not challenged by that. And
no.
the thing is, once you and science, that was a challenge for me too. And baking is a science. I was a baker and
Mhm.
pastry chef for many years until I started the whole writing thing and stuff. But I mean, the thing is we have restless brains that need to be challenged all the time. And the gossip shows and all these other things that are enormous pacifiers to a large swath of the population just don't cut it for us. Like I really
No.
don't care who's zooming who. and stuff like that. I want someone to challenge me and to give me something to think about. And that way my brain has a new toy to sort of play with and dissect and learn from and then expand upon.
I mean, people don't realize that with our ADHD, we need something literally to latch onto because that's gonna push our dopamine levels up.
Right.
And, and the funny thing is, I remember going to job a job transition market research.
Hmm.
And they go to all of us and they go, okay, we want you all to go over to both sides on the wall, and there's paper on there, and I want you each to take on that sheet of paper you stand in front of, write down the number of jobs you had.
Hmm.
And I'm looking and I write down 3. Everybody else, 10, 15.
Wow.
I'm like, and I call a woman over and I'm like, does it matter if I've only had 1 or 2, maybe 3 jobs when everyone else has got 30 jobs or 20 jobs? They're like, yeah, as long as it's a job you've been doing for that long, it's still a job.
Hmm.
And people ask, why those people jump jobs a lot? And a lot of times, as people don't realize, it's either A, they want to switch to a different career, or it's
Hmm.
B, they have ADHD, don't know it, and that job no longer holds their interest.
Mm.
Their, it's their position, and that position, it got to the point where it's no longer interesting their interest, and they're just going, I need something new, and they go looking for something new.
Well, when I also worked retail, and um, that is such a revolving door. I mean, there were people who came and went before the ink was dry in their name tags, you know. I mean, it's just kind of silly. And kitchens have their share of like people who appear and then vanish mysteriously.
Mhm.
I mean, that is there's it seems like certain professions they don't have as much of a revolving door, but I've certainly seen that. I have, I mean, I admire you for having 3 jobs. I mean, I was a serial mover, and that really helped me in my writing of the base series and stuff like that because um, a lot of it came from my experiences, looking at some military bases and also being the daughter of a research scientist, and so I would say the base I went to in South Dakota, I met some really interesting people. And there were so many different animals there that I had never experienced. Because it's a very low density population. So that really got me curious. And one of the scientists in the book, the heroes in the book are um, actually military scientists, military research scientists. And the guy there in the white lab coat, he's a military entomologist. So I got to do research on insects and bugs and stuff like that. Um, and now, I mean, I just look at them so differently. I mean, I was a bit of a weather geek,
Mm.
and there were other things I was kind of geeky about, and too. I mean, for us, that's not an insult. We all know that. I mean, we know at least that the geeks will inherit the earth. I mean, that was written somewhere. But you know, just get to keep that bouncing brain bouncing.
Now let's go back to your books for a little bit.
Sure.
You blend suspense with science. Why do you think science makes such a powerful ingredient in storytelling?
Well, I think because at least for me, it just kind of grabs the imagination and stuff. And there's so many possibilities with it now. And you know, now when I did series, the series takes place at right around the bicentennial of this country, like around 1976. So the surveillance options and stuff like that we have today are just so far superior. I mean, you and I are sort of around the same vintage, so you can remember when, you didn't really know who was calling you,
Yeah.
and nobody really had a camera on their door and stuff like that. And um, so the book deals with like these military research scientists. They're trying very hard to perfect this invention, but then there's spies and thieves that are trying to steal it. And so they just kind of have this cat and mouse game going, and it can get very funny because the scientists are very smart, and they are, you know, they think about their actions and what the impact of their actions and stuff and how things are going to turn out, which is how we think.
Hmm.
Um, but the spies and thieves are more impulse driven, and their motivations are, strictly, oh, I can take that, I could steal it, and I could sell it. But would you really want a military device in your car if you
No,
didn't know how to operate it?
no,
That might not end too well, would it?
no.
Yeah, so I had a lot of fun with that. Like, there are so many people who look down on us, geeky types or whatever you want to call us, but they don't think things through. And then when they're put in the position where it's like, okay, here it is, take it. I mean, now go ahead and operate it. Oops, didn't think of that one. So it's a lot of fun.
Now, have you ever Googled something for your research that you immediately thought to yourself, oh no, I'm definitely on the government's watch list now?
Oh, of course. I mean, especially since I was really surprised that some of the things I was researching. I mean, I was really surprised at how many of them are, being researched, and there are studies and that they're in active stages of development and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Because, say, for example, the guy next to the bug man,
Mhm.
that is an actor named Dennis. No, this is Doug Petrick. He is portraying Cullen, who um, who makes artificial cartilage. And I was really, really surprised at there is a big race on that. And then in book 3 of the series, which the series is now complete, it's out on Amazon. We're adapting it to film. But in book 3, I actually did DNA reverse engineering research on that, and that was really, really cool. Um, just to you know see that there was an idea that I had, and there are people trying to reverse engineer that. And I was fortunate I got to talk to a scientist who deals with neuroscience and the possibilities from that. There's this one study that we both kind of latched onto where amputees, how they can sometimes get phantom pains
Mhm. Yeah.
from the limb that's gone. Well, they do an exercise in front of the mirror, and it tricks their brain into realizing that, you know, that limb is gone. So loads of stuff out there.
Now, let's take a little deep dive into your character story and the characters.
Yeah.
Tell us about Venus, your female supervillain. If she had a dating profile, what would it say?
Okay, if Venus had a dating profile, it would say, I want it all. I mean, almost like that Queen song, like I want it all, I want it all, I want it all, I want it now. So she is someone that just wants everything, and she she's a master. I say that she dresses for deception. Like Venus will have all of these different outfits and disguises and stuff. So Venus will just adapt herself to whatever situation to get whatever it is that she wants. And so Venus would probably not be on your average Joe dating site. Venus would be on one of those dating sites where they have, um, executives and then, people who corporate killers and, stuff like that. That's who she would want to hang with.
Now you have an entomologist, a meteorologist, and other scientists in your cast. Why did you choose those specialties of all specialties?
Well, because in the book series of the base, what these characters, like every couple of weeks, they are given a list from the military of all of the attributes that their new device has to have.
Mhm.
And then they're also given that particular base. The joke about that base is that you are, everyone else is at these ordinary bases, but the base is where they send you when you have some astronomical skill at something. Like when you are ADHD, OCD, and the whole rest of the alphabet to the max. Like when you have been passionate in researching something since you're like 4 years old. Then once they recognize that you have an exceptional skill and that you're really into something, then they send you there. And so you're there with these other people who have all of these varied expertise in these different little fields, and you have to combine all of your expertise together to make
Mhm.
this invention that has these attributes. So sometimes having an invention that can give someone a shock, well, it might be advantageous to consult a meteorologist about that, since they
Alright.
know about electricity.
So let me ask you, who would
Mhm.
win in a showdown? Spies with gadgets or scientists powered by coffee?
I'm betting on the scientists.
Why would
Yeah.
that
Well, because I think that the scientists have really cultivated their minds, and they have they really think things through. Now, the spies, I mean, they may, the book has a lot of heists in it, the series, and they may plan a heist, and they may, try to suss out all of the variables in it, like what can go wrong, and before they do their heist and stuff like that. But I think the scientists have been just training their minds and disciplining their minds, since birth practically.
Mhm.
And so a spy or a thief, who are the villains in the books, sometimes they act on impulse. They're not as much disciplined and guided as science is.
Now, let's talk a little bit about what both you and I are, which are geeks. We're very much geeks and culture and everything. You had said earlier like the geek shall inherit the earth. Do you think we're living in a time where geeks really are the heroes?
Well, I think all of the folks who are frustrated with the current stage of technology and stuff like that would certainly say so. I mean, if you are someone who is not a geek, um, it's such a trophy to have like a friend or someone's nephew who could fix your phone for you, or even tell you what your phone is doing. And so for the folks outside of the inquisitive science sphere, ADHD, Asperger's sphere, um, it's a trophy to know someone you know, who can be didactic and who can, um, you know, do process of elimination and, figure out things.
All right. What is the nerdiest science fact you've ever slipped into your writing or a dinner conversation just to see people's reactions?
Let me see. The nerdiest science thing that I have. Well, you know what? I think it was when I saw my first dust devil. And a dust devil, there's all kinds of misconceptions about a dust devil, but a dust devil is something that happens on all seven continents. And so many people think of them as a tornado that starts on the ground and then is going to attach to the sky but fails. And so I had to do a lot of research on dust devils in the book series. And there's so many myths about them and so many legends about them and everything like that. And um, let's just say that they are not all of the myths and legends and stuff. And the funniest thing about them is that their favorite place of turning up statistically is on a baseball diamond.
Wow. Now, let me ask you, which science field do you secretly think would throw the wildest party? The entomologist, the meteorologist, or the military research?
Okay, let me see. The the ent these guys are all military research scientists.
Mm-hmm.
Um, okay, but let me see now. The entomologist, the meteorologist. Hmm. Um, let me see. I think probably the meteorologist because there's all kinds of fun things that they can do. Everyone remembers the legend of I think it's Benjamin Franklin who had the key on a string for catching some of that atmospheric electricity.
Wow. Now, what is something quirky you've learned in your science research that's made its way into your writing?
Oh man, so much of it because I would keep you know tr just keep chasing these things down. I would say I wanted a bug that was on all seven continents. And I wanted some universal themes and stuff. I didn't want a book that was only specific to my neighborhood and only had things in it to my neighborhood. So researching the insects and finding ones that were everyone, it's a universal thing that everyone has seen this bug and seen what it can do. And that found its way in there.
Now, as someone who is neurodivergent, how does your perspective shape your storytelling?
Well, I think we are very detail oriented people. And so just I have to make books that don't insult my audience. I have to, if I write something in there, I just can't fabricate it. I have to research it and find out that this is accurate and stuff. And because I know it's fiction, but I still like if I'm going to talk about like some of the insects or some of the weather things or the the possible uses for the artificial cartilage and stuff like that. I
Mhm.
have to really respect the facts and make sure I have my information straight.
Now, as you and I know, when you're writing something or even trying to do a project, when you have ADHD, you get distracted so many times. How do you keep your racing brain focused long enough to finish any of your projects, let alone your novels as well?
Well, I think um, I have implemented a variety of systems. I mean, having like separate files or separate books, like separate notebooks for certain things. So if I get an idea on, for instance, I am planting a butterfly garden for a charity. If I get an idea on that, then I pick up that notebook. And if I get an idea on, the designing the set design for the Bugman's house, the military entomologist. I have these fantastic ideas for that guy's house. Um, because it's going to look like the Addams Family house on steroids. He's not going to have your stereotypical house. None of us geeks do. Um, so then I picked that notebook up. And, sometimes if I'm fortunate enough to write stuff on the computer,
Mhm.
then it's easier. Then you're putting it in the files for the adaptations, um, for the film and versus the file for the garden and versus the file for a new recipe and stuff like that. It's easier to, we're like tailor made for computers because we
Mhm.
know how to file stuff and everything like that. Like we are totally made for that.
Now, I gotta ask you, I mean, I've heard this a lot. When you handed your book over to your editor and your publisher, did you find it hard because you kind of got fond of the characters that you created and they became like family to you and it was like saying goodbye to them for a short time?
Well, the I was fortunate in that I'm self-published.
Uh,
And so who I handed the book over to was proofreaders.
hmm
And so um, that that was um, of course you have to wait and see from them, but the feedback that you get from them is also, very helpful. And I tell them, just tell it like it is, don't sugarcoat it. But hearing their interpretations and stuff of the different settings and things that I had in there, that was a lot of fun.
Now, you mentioned your humor is part of your style.
Hmm.
You find comedy sneaks into your suspense writing even when you don't plan it?
Yeah, because I don't want it to be heavy-handed and depressing. I
Yeah.
mean, we as writers and potential filmmakers and stuff like that, we have to realize like we're in the entertainment business, and right now I think people really like entertainment now because I mean there's a lot of negativity out there, and so a good book should really be like a vacation.
Oh, yeah.
And people should just be able to open it up and then just take me away with your story. And so we have to remember that, like we kind of we can't be making people downhearted. I'm not saying that if you can't tell them the truth about certain things, but you certainly want to make it an enjoyable experience that they would want to come back for more.
Now, adapting your book into a streaming service sounds exciting, which I bet it is.
Mhm.
What's been the biggest challenge in that process so far?
Okay, two things. I did put a trailer on my website,
Hmm
and I actually did like 5 shoots of like mini scenes to just sort of give people a taste of some of the characters. So that was for me is like a first timer, um, sort of put in the position of directing and stuff. Um, that was a very big challenge. Um, and but I just wanted to have a little something so when it came time to partner with the real filmmakers and the real film directors and stuff, just so they got to see just a little taste of things. Um, so that was a very big challenge. And the software that is used to write screenplays, at first it is just a wallop. I mean, it's
hmm
you mean I can't just type this out in Word or whatever? What? But I mean, after you work with it a little bit, you see why it's there.
Yeah, I mean, it probably tells you where to like have your characters hesitate, when should a scene break happen, and stuff like that, I bet.
Well, also, I mean, like, are you shooting outdoors or indoors? Um, is it daylight or dark? Um, and if you're indoors, like, do you have to describe everything in that
Oh
setting?
wow.
Like if they're going into the bug man's house, then what is in there?
So
And
you really have to hold that detail of every piece, every detail down to the nitty-gritty of what people are seeing.
the hardest part about that too is that it's hard to guesstimate how long an individual episode is.
Hmm.
I mean, you could sit there and you can type and then you could play the scene in your head and you can sort of watch the clock and be like, okay, that took 11 minutes. Um, but then you have to think about like, I mean, if it's an hour long episode, I've heard people say that could be anywhere between 25 and like 38 minutes of the content. The rest is advertising.
hmm
So not really knowing, you know, where it's going to land. Like if it were with this network, it would be 25 minutes. If it's that network, it'll be 38 minutes. And, guesstimating um, the size of an episode is a little tricky.
Let's talk a little bit about your show. If you had to pitch the story in one sentence that would hook somebody instantly, what would it be?
Okay, if I had to pitch the base series in one sentence,
Hmm.
what I would say is the base is the most notorious military base um, in the world, with research scientists developing top secret projects while spies and thieves try to steal their projects. Hmm.
Kind of reminds me of, do you remember the show Eureka?
No,
Eureka, let me lay, the base of it is Eureka is this hidden town somewhere,
yeah.
and it's filled with top military people, top scientists, all creating all these crazy conventions, and their sheriff somehow um gets hurt, and then he decides to retire, and then they bring in the new sheriff who happens just to be driving through, and he gets stuck there, and throughout the process they reach out to his boss and say, hey, we want you to take over this position in this secret town. So it's all about all these top secret
Hmm.
scientists and military people coming up with crazy inventions.
Cool.
Now, which do you think is scarier? The spies trying to steal the invention, or the possibility that the invention can actually work?
Well, in the book series, the invention does work, and it is, the scientists, of course, are elated that it works. And of course, I mean, in a situation where you have spies and thieves willing to pay exorbitant amount of money to steal something, got to have a double agent in there.
Hmm.
And and so these spies and thieves are also just elated that the thing works. I mean, but they have a different level of triumph. Like the scientists are like, finally, we have prevailed after, putting our heads together, for a couple of months. It works. It moves. I mean, it's there. And then the other guys are like, well, wouldn't this guy love that? I can, snatch it and sell it to this guy or sell it to this person. And so there's different levels of triumph going on there, when it actually does work. And then, of course, as soon as they're done, their boss taps them on the shoulder and says, okay, now we want you to build something that does this. Yep.
Right.
So it's just it isn't just the one time thing of like, let's make one invention and let's make it work. Because I mean, every job you have, I mean, once you finish something or even 5 minutes away from finishing it, there's a supervisor, there's a boss or someone like that tapping you on the shoulder and saying, all right, now that that's almost done, you can do this.
That's almost like what it is like in the real world. You finish something, you get tapped on the shoulder, and your boss like, "Oh, you finished that in record time. Now you can do this for me."
Yes.
And it's like you roll your eyes back in your head, and you're like, "Maybe I should do this next job slower, so I don't
Yeah.
have to get another project piled on top of me."
Yep. Yep.
Now let's go back to Venus for a minute.
Sure.
What makes her tick, and why is she so determined to steal this invention? And does she know what it does?
Well, I think what makes Venus tick, like when we go into her backstory and everything like that, is jealousy.
Mm.
Because little secret here, Venus was a twin that was separated very shortly after birth. And so, you know, she got the golden family. I mean, she really did really well for herself, while her twin, got into did a couple of foster homes, this, that, and the other thing, and then finally landed in one foster home that was a good fit for her, but never never was dripping diamonds and never, place that had any sort of surplus of anything. It was always like bare bones. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so, but Venus got her resentment, I think, because she thought that the natural born siblings in the household where she was, that she just kind of felt like the stranger, even though she was there as an infant and stuff. She just always had resentment and jealousy of others.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so she became more and more diabolical and carried that through to her adulthood. She left that family, as soon as she legally could leave that family, but also was sure to help herself to some of those things that were there in that household. Oops, spoiler alert. But then when Venus was in adulthood and in some pretty exclusive communities, her pattern of jealousy and wanting more and more continued, because if she was going to lunch with the ladies like every other week, and then she noticed that this one was redoing her kitchen, well, she had to redo her kitchen too.
So she's like the type that would like to one up people and like, I don't want to be
Oh,
left out.
she always has to have more, always has to have more. And then her way of getting more is by being a deceiver, by being a master spy. And so she's really managed to be the top of her field in that, and very feared, because I mean, she isn't the type of person who at the end of the day, if someone's acting up, says, I'm really sorry. I hope I didn't hurt your feelings. What can I do to make this up to you? You know how sometimes
Yeah.
you have someone like that in your life. Um, she's the type of boss that if she doesn't need you, then she can dispose of you, literally.
So she would almost be working for like Vile if she was in Carmen Sandiego, the super villains of the show.
Oh, she would start off working for them, but then she would find a way to overpower them and eventually control their empire, and then the whole time just being an injustice collector. That's a really good way to describe her. And just being like, well, I still don't have enough because there's someone else who has more than me. And, just that, I mean, she doesn't come out and say that, but she is, I believe, an injustice collector, and just, gotta have more, and, at all cost.
Now, would you cast yourself? What would you cast yourself as? The scientist, the spy, or the supervillain?
I think the person I resemble the most is the twin of Venus. Now,
Hmm.
Venus um, always keeps mental tabs on where her twin is, but was never part of her life since the separation. And her twin, turned out to be a very different person, because her circumstances were so different, and some of the situations that she was placed in. And so, I don't want to give away the whole surprise about Venus's twin, Helen. How did Helen turn out? But we'll just say that I think I can say that I probably resemble Helen most out of all the characters.
Now, let's do a little bit of a lightning round here. Scientists or spies?
Scientists or spies? Hmm, let me see. I would say scientists and spies, because that's the way that works. I mean, even as a pastry chef in a catering house, people were trying to steal my recipes and stuff. You know,
Hmm.
it's just there's always spies.
All right. Suspense or humor?
Oh, I'm gonna drive you crazy. I'm gonna say both, because I don't like torturing people. I mean, sometimes people who write suspense have no humor in it at all, and then it becomes kind of painful. I like having a little bit of a love a laugh.
And writing or daydreaming?
Well, I have to say that, writing is daydreaming, except for that you are actually taking it down in some way. You are typing it, or, you are making some type of a physical record of it rather than have it just be another one of those thoughts that is racing through your head. You are documenting it.
And finally, are you rooting for the scientists because you love facts or because deep down you are one of them?
Well, I think I probably am rooting for them a bit because I am one of them. Um, and and then also because, it's just like, well, what will they come up with next? Because
Mhm.
they know that these groups of people are um, coming after them, and that they're trying to snatch stuff. So they have a great sense of humor about it. They're like, okay, you want to snatch this? Let's see what happens if I give you the version of it that multiplies 100 times every 5 minutes. I hope you have a use for all of them. And by the way, they get very smelly when they are in temperatures above 10 degrees.
And finally, where can people find out more about you and your books and your upcoming film?
Okay, I have a website, and I'm going to bring my little friend here to help me with that. That website is Dante Therese. That is DanteTerese.com, and all kinds of crazy, crazy books. Now, can I ask you a
Sure.
few? Okay,
Sure.
so
I was going to say, if you got questions for me, go ahead and ask.
yes, I do. Now, these are a few geek questions. Okay.
All right.
So I was looking at plurals of words. Now, if you have a plural of asparagus, I think the plural is asparagi.
Hmm. I
So
always
if we,
thought singular would be asparagi and singular would be asparaguses.
okay, but then if there's a plural of Asperger's, is it aspergi?
No, Asperger and Aspergers with an S.
Okay, so then let me see. If the plural of goose is geese,
Hmm.
then what is the plural of moose? Is it meese?
That's one I've always thought about too. Is it Mies? Have you ever thought about asking Alexa what she thought?
I probably should. And another thing I realized is that um, a group of crows.
A group of crows? That's an interesting topic. Did you know they're called a murder of crows? Quite,
There
isn't it?
Sorry
you
about
are.
that, folks. There's Alexa just wanted to butt in.
Yes, a group of crows is a murder of crows, and a group of geese is a gaggle of geese.
That I never knew.
Yep.
Well, actually, I've heard of gaggle of geese.
Yeah, I just didn't know about the crows and the murder.
I didn't know about that either.
Yeah. Yep. So that's my fun stuff for right now.
So, so, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. That was Dante Therese, and I'm Reed Miles. And if you're into suspense or mystery or supervillains and heroes or bug scientists or anything else, remember you're not alone in the universe. And please stay tuned for the next episode. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you, Dante.
Thank you.
See you later, everybody.